Boy, Chris, I know you live all over here, yeah. Oh, here real spooky.
Let's be bright in the day.
Journey dead.
You frightened?
Man, ain't not a street light over here, pitch black.
You ain't gotta worry, man. She soon be there, though. As long as we don't see the braid, we good.
Wait. What braid?
Well, all over here used to be plantation until my family bought a little piece of land further up the hill. My grandmother used to tell me the story about the previous owners of the plantation. And, well, they was from the UK. And he had a son. His son fell in love with this village girl. Didn't live too far off the plantation. And she looked like he bad too. But the father wasn't having it. And they decided they was going to elope.
Elope?
Yeah. Secretly get married. So the day they had organized to meet up, he had found out about it. So what had happened was he organized to get some guys and they ambushed the girl and like them dig she out. Like they just rape she they do all the worst. And guy get there and he ain't seen nobody. He feeling he gets stand up. And eventually not seeing her at all. Now, he going back to UK and I hear he kill himself. But the worst part about it is when they actually found the body, she was pregnant.
Pregnant?
Yeah, man. I don't know, but I don't know how you could do these kind of things. People say that they must see she spirit like haunting the same land here.
Wait. This arrow here?
Yep. All about here.
Nah.
What happened? You frightened?
Nah, I don't like that at all. I ain't coming back over here.
You ain't gonna be like that, man. I live out here for well now. That happened to me.
Nah. No.
He left here coming.
This is the last thing. Alright? I came back over here.
You ain't gonna worry, man. You ain't gonna be scared. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Get in good.
Get easy.
Yo, I better put on some music, yeah. Get my head off of this foolishness. Hell is that? This can't be all. This can't be serious. Oh, is she gone? Nah, boy, nah. Nah, boy. Nah, look at from over here, boy, nah.
Gun violence is very bad, not only for the people involved, but also for their families. It has a trickle-down effect. We need to think twice before we do.
We as young people cannot continue to sit back and watch our peers use the gun as the preferred weapon of choice. There comes a time when silence is betrayal, and that time is now.
Each and every single Barbadian needs to commit to being the best that they can be. Not pointing fingers at left, right, he, she, and it, but each of us looking at ourselves, seeing what is good about ourselves and what is not right about ourselves, even in God's sight, and making the commitment to change without compromise.
It just needs to stop. Gun violence is very bad. The guns are they should be banned forever. Please, just please stop. Please make it stop.
Anti-violence is not just a catchphrase. It is a movement towards positive behavior change in our young and old. How do we accomplish this? Through empowering and educating everyone to make that conscious decision to end the violence. But what is violence? According to the World Health Organization, violence is the intentional use of physical force or power, threatened or actual, against oneself, another person, or against a group or community. This action either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation. We all have seen the devastating effects violence can have. We cannot continue to let physical violence, sexual violence, domestic violence, or any type of violence run rampant in our nation. Violence benefits no one. Not me, not you, not our families, our communities, and definitely not our beautiful island Barbados. So let's all work together, join the movement, and end the violence. For more information on the End the Violence campaign, visit us on Instagram and Facebook at End the Violence. End the Violence campaign, an initiative of the Division of Youth Affairs in the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment.
Hi, I am Chanting Allen Clark. Violence of any kind is painful. It is wrong and it must end. We can do this, Barbados. Let's end the violence now.
End the violence. End it, end it.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment welcomes you to the premiere of the Anti-Violence Campaign End the Violence, the series. These engaging in-your-face themed short films are part of a suite of multi-dimensional approaches to violence in our society. They complement the work of the ministry through its Division of Youth Affairs, Barbados Youth Advanced Score, Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, Youth Development Program including its Next Step Training Initiative and Pathways Employability Program, the Community Development Department, the Community Independence Celebration Secretariat, the Sports Development Unit, and the National Sports Council. We are very excited to have you join us today because you are partners in the positive development of our youth, our communities, and our nation. Through partnerships, we can do great things. Welcome.
And now for our feature presentation.
End the violence. Verbal and physical aspects. End the violence. Sexual abuse and neglect.
You could do this to me! Oh, you could do this to me! Look, woman! You trying to mess with me? You trying to get me dead? Leave me alone, Kyle! That's what you trying to do! Leave me alone! Yeah, man. What's going on, man? Hey, Irie, man? Yeah, things kind of all right, man. Just trying to keep my head level. You see me doing a Trisha? You get that information from? Oh, IG. She picture? Man, you know he's a man. No, I do not make no sport. No woman cannot disrespect me. She's searching my phone, claiming they got to do with me. Man, you know my head is getting hot sometimes. You listening, man? I know when they're growing up, you see a lot of foolishness. When I was growing up, you see a lot of nonsense. And it just get to me. You speaking righteous, man? My man, if it was my mother, no man, and I repeat, no man can put your hand on my mother. Or if it's my sister, no man can put your hand on my sister. I just really don't know what's been going through my head sometimes. Sometimes I just get so hot. So hot. And I just feel real shame. And I just don't know how to fix it with Trisha. Man, ain't hear you, man. Because you see this thing called domestic violence, I admit it. I admit it. I need help. Yes. Change got to start with me first, but I can't do it alone. I know you're speaking the truth, but don't leave me alone. Please, please, help me, the man. Help me.
This is not how you behave in a civilized society. Zero tolerance on gun violence.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
Violence now. Go to school to learn, don't go to fight. As a growing.
Want to say something? I am a man, and I'm not afraid to say this.
Any violence, verbal and physical aspects. Any violence, sexual abuse and neglect. Any
Coca-Cola sur le beat.
In 500 words, write an essay to present to class about the importance of human rights. Describe why it is important for today's youth as 21st century citizens to understand the importance of human rights in their society. This essay seems real easy though, but how can I write this? How can I approach this? Let me go and see what online says about human rights. Human rights. Human rights are moral principles or norms for certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security. This is good. So much information about human rights. Man, this is gonna be one boss of an essay. This give me an easy A for me. Hello? Yes, boo, what's up? Just got home here working on this essay for class. Yes. The essay about human rights. I was just looking to see any definitions online before I start my masterpiece. Anyway, what's up with you, boo? Yes. I saw Miss Butch in class today. Can't say she wants to be a man or a woman, always tend on she breasts and wearing boxers. Girl, I have no time for those types of humans. She thinks she is so much smarter than everybody else, out working by herself. She has a point to prove. Look, she's really a hot mess. She comes from a very troubled home. Or so I heard. No wonder. Look, you know what she need? She need some weave, a wardrobe, and a drop-dead, gorgeous, real man. Not mine though. That will surely set her straight. Look, I don't see the misfits come from though. I'm so over them. Got that right. That about you, boo, and my glam squad crew. Yes. And the girl who sits behind you, her head always tied down. Is there really a cut on my head, so? And she playing these real all times. Honestly, it's absolutely creepy. But I really feel for the poor soul. Yeah, girl. This turned out to be some year already. A lot of weirdos to go on contact with. and you check that really big, very dark guy. Sits in the back of the class. My story, he's some kind of sick, slimy pervert. Head always down the phone. Can't a little conversation with me. I don't know where he come from though. But she came from that school that he transferred from. But like, honey, anybody these days. And he smell real. How you mean I make not feel bad? What did I do? Wait, it's my fault that I don't fit in? Look, let me behave myself here. Anyway, what's up with you? You planning the midterm party already? Wait, where we going? Yes! That sounds like a great plan, girl. We got so much stuff to go and discuss. Yes! Look, I have my friend this essay, so I'll talk to you later, all right? All right, see you later. All right, boo. Bye-bye. Let me send this to my phone so I can practice this masterpiece. And send. Got it. Human rights. Human rights are moral principles or norms for certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security. Is this what human rights are all about?
This is not how you behave in a civilized society. Zero tolerance on gun violence.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
Violence now. Go to school to learn, don't go to fight. As you grow in life, you got to do things right. Help your friends to do good deeds. Start right now to sow good seeds. You don't need a gun, you don't need a knife. You don't need a weapon that will end your life. Stay in school, get your education. Be a proud ambassador for your nation. No more violence now.
This is not how you behave in a civilized society.
Zero
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance on gun violence.
Cease the violence now.
Zero tolerance on gun violence.
Any violence, verbal and physical aspects, any violence, sexual abuse and neglect.
Yeah. Angles. You gotta get the angles, bro. Yes. Right. So you right? I was like, 6 minutes shit all time.
That's cute. Oh, that's cute. That's Bob. That gonna look hot on Instagram. I'm telling you.
You look like you need somebody.
That's nice. Yeah, I guess not tonight. Yeah, if you do special to talk to me, huh? Big cab.
I don't want you to get on here. I was late. I don't want you to go and leave me. So late. I can't believe we're not sure. Tell me you're joking.
Scared we get on salt? Huh? It's just a little old talk with the sexy girls from the beach, man, huh? Ain't that serious? I don't act like when the dog come down here for a little attention from the man. It's just a little dirty fun. What's up, tight? When the women left the parade when the assets on the beach, then when they just get vexed, when men approach one of.
You know nothing about me. I was there trying to make clothes when I heard y'all. This is y'all be here when girls don't take one on. So wanna get me red tired though. Honestly.
Shock who you can also. Who is fun in the fun? We the plan this here from every sense. You ain't come to the beach in a good world, huh? It's just a little talk. You see me touching them? Huh? The boy get touched, nothing happen. It's just a little talk, man. We's men, huh? We's men. Don't take the things so serious.
Y'all have been my friends for a very long time. Y'all know so little about me. This is how it all starts. No? Words and dirty looks. But y'all, it's carried much, much further. And it gets way, way worse.
All right, look. Shot. I'm sorry for talking to girls. Be good. Be good.
No. It's not good. These guys are telling me how sexy it was and how much I wanted it. 6 months ago, to be exact. That's why I don't come to the beach anymore. If it's strange how when they ask me, I said no. How to beg me to come today. And I respond to them. And I'm by myself, watching the sand on my feet by the pipe. They came and touched me and calling me, telling me how I wanted it. I was so scared. I ran as fast as I could. But they laughed at me. That's why I was so pissed. Some of y'all did. This is my body. My body. One's body is to be owned. And you respect that. Respect that. Look, I ain't going home. I done played the game.
Shut. Sorry.
This is not how you behave in a civilized society. Zero tolerance on gun violence.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
Violence now. Go to school to learn, don't go to fight. As you grow in life, you got to do things right. Help your friends.
Sure, but they use other.
Verbal and physical aspects, and the violence, sexual abuse and neglect.
Why has Travon left this mess in here? Travon! Travon! Come here and clean up this mess, boy. You don't even know come home from work working so hard. I'm gonna clean up in here. Travon! Where are you? I can't take these children nowadays. If it is the phone, it is football. If it is not football, it is the beach or the mall. Travon! Where are you, boy? I don't even know what this that he got here. It looks like a garbage. Travon, where are you, son? Oh, Nikita. I ain't gonna tell you no lie, it's such a privilege to be back here dealing with these children face to face. You see this online thing? I was never a fan of it. Never. Don't mind the children in the back that don't like to hear me. I still miss them too. That's the truth.
Listen, Grizzy, you're right, you know. I was never a fan of this online school either, you know. But I can tell you, these children are happy to be back out to school. And of course, I have to mention the parents. They're even happier to have us babysitting their children again.
Listen, these parents is something else. These parents is something else for sure. Not to cross you though. You can remember Travon Marshall? Travon Marshall.
That name doesn't ring a bell.
Listen, he's a smart boy. Very imaginative for a boy his age. A bit too big, but personally, I feel it's the food this young man eating. It got to be the food.
Graves, you could be right. But besides the food, in all honesty, let me look at how these parents raising these children of today. Whatever they ask for, they get.
But what you was telling me about Travon?
What you was telling me?
I find his stories are very sad and dark. Very sad and dark. Look at this essay I gave him last week. Look at this. Take a look at it.
Let's see about this sadness and this dark at the top, about.
Nikita, something is wrong with that boy.
Gravesy. I ain't like how this song, you know.
Maybe you think we should get the guidance counselor in on this?
Definitely.
Because this is past, this gone past, we know.
Wow. This child needs help.
He does. He really does.
You try contacting his parents?
This child really, really needs help.
none of them like me. They say I am ugly, too dark, too big, and that I smell bad. I am tired of the insults on social media. Tired of the harassment. I hate myself and I hate my school. So I am leaving. I am leaving and I am never coming back.
I wonder where that boy Trayvon is. Trayvon, where were you? I was so worried. I don't know what happened. If something happened to you. Trayvon, where were you? What happened? Son, we gotta talk. Let's talk.
Any violence, verbal and physical aspects. Any violence, sexual abuse and neglect.
Hey, Paul.
Yo, Terry?
What's going on, man?
Man, what's man?
Boy, you heard them gunshots last night?
Yeah, man, them shots, they popping low, man.
Boy, this man at the trigger happy or saying, boy?
Wait, boss man, you frightened? You sound scared?
Big man, I may not be scared like that, but I value my life. I got plans for the future, boy. Just the other day, I might get taken down the back. And the man gotta stop with that there, boy. They got too much little children running about here.
Look. The men I get taken out, them deserve it. I hear them the snitches. Some of these men just want to come out here and change up the way things done up on this crank. I remember on the block, but we still got order, you know? Men just want to come and do us, then please. We got rules and regulations, rules, right?
Paul, you hearing yourself? I know all we grow up together. We not gonna stop with this gun violence thing, big man. Too much little children, elderly boy place. I know that none of them gonna let that happen to them. We not gonna stop.
None of this is we fault. What happened in the community ain't none of we fault. What miss? The men vex and the men want to see blood. It could be gun, it could be knife. The men don't care. I myself don't care. Once they don't happen to...
You shoot your brother. You shoot your brother. You shoot Debbie. He was on the phone and he step and they shoot him.
How are you doing? Paul. Give me it. How much more, Ja? Dave, you wanna know getting life together? A new baby there on the way. A new job. This ain't fear. This ain't fear, Ja. How much more?
Woke up early this morning to the sounds of crying. Another mother shedding her tears. Oh, yeah. Why all the pain and suffering? Why all the senseless killing? Could it be that nobody cares? Oh no. So many sons lost in the slaughter. Blood running in the streets like water. A gun in hand knows no friend. No.
No more violence now.
This is not how you behave in a civilized society.
Cease the violence now.
Zero tolerance on gun
Everybody,
violence.
no more violence now.
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this
Cease the
country.
violence now. Go to school to learn, don't go to fight. As you grow in life, you got to do things right. Help your friends to do good deeds. Start right now to sow good seeds. You don't need a
country. It's depressing and hurting you and me. Violence not good for this country. Time for change and rearrange socially. No, we don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it. Yes, we gonna end it. We don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it. Yes, we gonna end it. End the violence. Verbal and physical aspects. End the violence. Sexual abuse and neglect. End the violence. Emotional and mental effects. End the violence. End it. 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 End it.
Sports and Community Empowerment, the Honorable Kirk Humphrey, Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Honorable Corey Lane, Minister of State in the Office of the Attorney General with responsibility for crime prevention, Mrs. Yolande Howard, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, partners, heads and representatives of governmental and non-governmental organizations, heads and staff of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, and other government ministries, production team and cast of the End the Violence, the series, short films, media, family, supporters, friends. Good evening. This evening, with the help of the creative and talented production team and cast, we were brought face to face with 5 forms of violence. This is a glimpse and another invitation for our conversations to get personal. This evening, to lift the conversations from the screen to actioning words are our esteemed panel. And at this point, I would like to invite them to join us on, well, our stage, for want of a better face, to come forward, please, as we will begin the conversations again. Chairing the panel is Dr. Denise J. Charles, an experienced educator, cultural practitioner, writer, and artistic director. She enjoys working in the areas of creative development and sees the arts as a powerful vehicle for personal and social change. She's a writer and director in the short films we would have just viewed, and therefore has intricate knowledge in this process. Also, we have with us Miss Innes, Joyanne Innes, and we also are joined by Dr. Chase. But it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Charles, who will chair the session and lead the conversation. Dr. Charles?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed what you would have viewed just a few minutes ago. And we're going to be inviting your comments and questions as we interface with what we would have viewed and what we all know or have experienced or have witnessed in some degree about various forms of violence which are still impacting our society today. You would have heard who our panelists are, and I think we are going to be pivoting to seeing some of the feedback from our actors.
Something. I am a man, and I'm not afraid to say this. When it comes to domestic violence, women that hit men too. Women think of domestic violence, they all tell themselves a lady getting big, she here getting punched, she getting slapped, she getting cut, she getting uppercuts. Men too. Me too. And they have problems with it. Women that hit me too, women that hit you too, and like, we shouldn't really look at it, the difference between a woman and a man. But women is beat you, and they do not like it. It's unwanted. Women is beat you over here in Barbados, all over the world. Women is beat you, and they gonna look like a punk, or they gonna look like an idiot if I go to court and press charges against you.
And the children can get involved too in the recompense as well. So have to be careful with that too. So yes, both women get abused and men. But the thing is that if you see someone being abused, if you hear your neighbor next door, a child screaming, don't say that my business, that my problem. You report it because you can save a child's life, you can save a mother's life from getting abused. So
you can also save a father's life if it gets abused.
A father's life.
Okay, you would have heard the responses, the opinions of our young people about the type of violence we would have witnessed in the short film which dealt with domestic violence. And this is something that is, I would say, pretty ingrained in our culture, something that has been happening over the years. And we've reached a place where we are a lot more vocal about our refusal, the fact that we're not going to accept this anymore, something that perhaps was accepted several years ago. Now we have among our panelists, Miss Hewitt, who is going to be looking at this area of domestic violence, domestic abuse. And I'm going to be asking her at this point, how prevalent is male on female domestic violence? We know that our young person spoke of female on male domestic violence, but how prevalent is male on female domestic violence versus female on male domestic violence.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to speak at this event. I was very impressed with all the films. Actually, I also have a film myself, so I'm pleased to see so many films coming out from our young people. I consider myself still young. But definitely, we need to do more. I think films touch people and make people think a lot more than if you come and confront them face to face. In response to your question, the statistic says worldwide that female on male violence is about 10 to 15%, whereas male on female is about 85 to 90% of the population. So you're more likely to find male on female. And then also if you add in the different types of violence, it's not only just the physical. If you add in things like rape and sexual assault, then the numbers go up. You're unlikely to hear of women raping men. So if you add all the violence together, then you have to look at who has the power in the relationships, who have the power in society. So definitely there's a lot more male on female violence and abuse than the other way around.
And how is this impacting the home? What are some of the challenges that we are seeing as a consequence of this type of violence?
Wow. It impacts the home on so many levels. You have if you think of just the children alone, they're either scared, some of them will try to do the same thing. They will try to attack that person who is inflicting the violence. They may side with one of the parents, which causes more conflict within that family. They could be depressed, so the teachers may find that the children are either depressed or they're acting out with a lot of aggression. They may even be bullying someone else. They're arranged for the children alone, far less the people that are involved. Then the families may get involved because one side may side with the other, not knowing the full story. There's a lot of economics involved. Someone may not be working. Then you have to look at the amount of days that are lost. It may be a family business, the amount of days that are lost to that business, the whole health concern in that situation. The person who is being abused may be constantly at the hospital, constantly at the doctor, may not be able to look after the children to the extent that they should be because they're always fearful when that person comes in. They're not able to give the kind of love and attention and support that they should be giving, so they may start to neglect the children. They neglect themselves as well. They're scared. There's a wide range.
Okay, the purpose of this discussion, short as it may be, is really to cause us to begin to think of these issues. Yes, they've been in the public domain for quite a while. We know that they exist, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear what your thoughts are, what your questions may be. So at this point, I'm going to open for a question or comment from the audience. There are mics in the aisles. Someone is coming?
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
What is being done to change domestic violence?
Let me tell you a little bit about my organization, then you will know some of the things that we are doing. We started out in terms of domestic violence, I would say in 1986. My organization is the Business and Professional Women's Organization. Just call us BPW Barbados. We deal with everything pertaining to women. So that is health, getting more women in politics, whatever it is, women. We put women first. We try to get equality for women, empowerment for women. And in 1986, we noticed there were a series of rapes around the UWI campus. And we got together and decided to start a rape crisis hotline where people could call in and let us know what was happening. Because at that time, most women weren't reporting, and if they did report it and they went to court, they felt that if they were raped again when they went into the jury box, because of the kind of questions that were asked of these women. How many men you had before? Was your leg up? Was it out? Whatever. So we formed a hotline. And from that hotline, we decided to move it into a crisis center hotline. So we started accepting more calls in terms of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, rape, sexual assault, and we also picked up suicide at the time because the Samaritans line went down. So we decided that we would handle that area as well. And so we started going out to the community, talking to the community, sending out flyers. We have put out 2 films on domestic violence. We've had one of the films right here at Olympus, just to get people, one, first to be aware of the incident, and then when we realized that there was nowhere for people to go to, especially if you were running for your lives, we started to talk to the government about opening a shelter. And eventually the government came around to our point of view, and collectively we opened the shelter in 1999. That shelter is for women and all their children. The only people we don't take is boys above 14, and then we house those boys somewhere private. If the boy is big, if we think that it's necessary for that boy to stay with his mom, we will keep the boy at the shelter as well. But we don't let the boy stay at the family home. We will move them somewhere where the mother and the child can have access to each other. And we only do that because sometimes boys are very big and to the ladies, they might pose a threat in their mind. But if it is necessary, they will stay there. So we've done everything we can to raise the profile. We go into schools. Actually, we carry Calypsonians into schools. We've had people like Mikey, Blood, etc., going into schools, and we talk about domestic violence, which is more of a family violence, because intimate partner violence is about your intimate partner. So we try to separate the two. Domestic violence, we tend to think more of a mother and child, grandfather, grandson. And we saw a lot of domestic violence during COVID because the family was together in that house. They couldn't go outside, and we saw a lot of domestic violence. We do everything there is. Actually, next Saturday, we have another event, and that will be in Golden Square, again talking about domestic violence. Again,
okay, we want to get one more question in quickly. Yeah. So thank you. Okay. I hope that she answered your question. Sure. One more question or comment from the audience? None? Oh. Yes? Take the mic, please.
Hi, good evening to all of you. We know a lot of violence in relation to boys being raped, but I want to step a little further in what we look at as domestic being beaten, because I'm a product of domestic violence, and it came about as a result of my mother being abused, and when I started crying as a boy, I got abused. How prevalent is this in our society?
It is prevalent in terms of, if you're thinking in terms of parents abusing children, beating them, but where you definitely get more for girls than for boys, and women than men. But yes, we do handle boys as well. We've gotten calls for boys in terms of rape and in terms of abuse on our hotline. And if they're under 16, we cannot handle that case. We will take the information, do the necessary at that time, but we have to hand it over to Child Care Board. But we have had boys and we have counseled them.
Thank you.
And we will advise the parent, if the parent come forward, what we would suggest to them, and sometimes we will move them on to get more counseling.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm speaking from school level.
Yes.
And so what will happen is we see the behaviors manifest based on deviance, or they will withdraw completely. So when we recognize that there is an issue with a particular child, we would have our counselor, because there are a number of counselors now, including social workers who are coming to the school. I mean, they don't go every day, but then a list will go to those social workers or those counselors coming in, and then once that matter is referred, then they have a relationship between the parent and the child. Here lies the challenge. There are some children obviously based on the dominance of the parent may shut down completely. And you would also hear that those children, you would hear things like students are lying, that child is lying, they're compulsive liar, and that obviously that's the parent trying to protect self. And it is not only parent, it will be a visitor, somebody, family member, where that abuse or in some cases rape is occurring. And so, but for us at the school level, we have made sure that they have, once we identify it, once the withdrawal has occurred, once the level of violence has increased or deviance has increased, it is referred then to the counselor, and the matter is moved from there then to other channels depending on how great that matter is. And as stated previously, the Child Care Board may intervene at some point depending on how great it is, or we may even have that resource based on the psychiatric hospital, but obviously there's a stigma attached to that, where the connection is made there as well.
Okay, I just want to add a little bit of complexity perhaps to what you're saying. Very often we know children are abused and they complain or they tell someone or they're exhibiting some sort of behavior that would suggest that something like this is happening in the home. What happens when a child who is being abused still loves the parent, obviously, and wants to protect that parent?
And that happens.
That happens quite often.
That's right. That's why for us
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, I mean, all right, so our teachers will be trained in one area. My background comes from special education as well, and emotional and behavior disorder. Right. So I would know then at that point who to contact and say, let's intervene. Now, you have to be also mindful that once I've gone through that process, you're going to have pushback from a parent, especially if the parent is the abuser. So that is why it may appear to the general public that this process is taking extremely long, but because of how sensitive it is, it has to go through these very slow processes so that the child builds confidence with the counselor in order to give that information. Because as you rightfully said, they will protect, because in their head, that means I am going to be withdrawn from my parent and put into a new environment, which for me, I may not necessarily want. But I am telling you, we do have adequate counselors and guidance counselors and social workers in place that will look to address that and understand the dynamics that may play out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to be moving on to looking at another type of violence which would have been evident in another one of the short films. This was the one that looked at, we called it gender and other violence, because it was really a subtle type of violence. I don't know if you picked it up. It was the one that was looking at human rights. We do not have gender and symbolic violence. We do not have feedback from the young people involved for this particular one, but we want to invite some discussion on it because it was a different type of violence that we were talking about, something very subtle. We were talking about attitudes, and I don't know if you picked up the irony in the fact that she was writing an essay on human rights, but really didn't understand what it meant to respect other people regardless of their differences or peculiarities. So we really want to look at this because especially in this digital age and the age of social media, there's a lot of bullying going on and people not accepting you if your opinion happens to be different to theirs. And what is your perspective on this type of violence, and what have we been seeing of this, particularly among our school children?
In school children?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
well, we can start there because obviously we're looking at
All right,
young
so I
people.
was going to actually picture from trade union movement.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, the issue actually arose where we were talking about LGBTQ plus group. And therefore, the question was raised, how do you protect your LGBTQ within the working environment? Obviously, that in the Caribbean, that's a taboo topic. Yes. Good. We had one of our advocates, she was gay. And she was one that was from Bermuda and stated that even in their society, when they had moved towards a referendum, it was actually shut down in relation to same-sex marriage, etc. Therefore, as a Caribbean, we had to then look at, do we recognize the group? And do we have policies in place to move against discrimination?
Remember, we still want to center it a lot on the young people and how they would respond.
Yes,
Yeah.
because this was a young person
okay.
and in a working environment. And then felt that when you're working in that environment based on my sexuality, I was being discriminated against. So what had happened is that we made sure we stated, you know what, maybe because it was so sensitive, we had decided cover it under discrimination. Is that fair? The question we asked, because there's a particular group who's being ostracized based on their sexuality. So then we had to do when we came back, obviously coming back to Barbados, we then had to sensitize our membership to let them know that you are not to be going towards discrimination of any worker at all. It is a human right to protect my own sexuality, and my work must not be based on my sexuality at all, and therefore to make the necessary provisions within the workplace that allow me to move freely and to benefit as any other person. So sexuality should not become an issue in relation to any working environment.
We know there's a certain level of volatility with this in Barbados particularly because of how various people view it. And they think, it would seem that some people think that once we are having a discussion about it, that we are encouraging it. Yes. And I think that is where the challenge lies. You want to contribute something?
Yes, I would say that there is, amongst our youth, in adolescence is a, lack of a better word, a confusing time, where the person is learning themselves, getting to know themselves, and that includes their sexuality. And we speak about workplace bias, but what about in the family? What about at the school? Where that child feels very stifled. I can't express myself, I can't express my actual sexuality or what I feel at the moment for fear of discrimination. That leads, and we see a lot of children present with depression because that kind of intrapsychic conflict I'm portraying. As one young boy said, he's portraying one side to the world and he has to hide his true side and self inside because he lives with his father and his father isn't going to accept him.
Right.
If he goes to school, the boys will tease him. And it really does impact, I guess, if anyone and their freedom to express themselves and be themselves, that causes a lot of it's either going to come out in anger or even in depression.
Okay, thank you. We want to open at this time for comments or questions on this particular area, as was presented in this short film. It did mention the issue of sexual differences, but it also looked at other areas. It looked at religion. It looked at color. We know of colorism among blacks, where if you're very dark, you're perceived in a particular way. This still exists. Are there any comments or questions in this area? None? Okay. Do you find that there's a level of intolerance among our young people, particularly within, I would say, school and college age, with respect to to differences in religion or religious practice when it is something that is perhaps marked, like it is marked by dress, or it is marked by diet, or it is marked by any particular religious habit that the child may need to exhibit in school or exclude himself or herself from an activity? Or have our children grown past this? Are we maturing as a society with respect to embracing these types of differences?
In relation to inclusion, I think children are a little bit more accommodating than the adults themselves. That is a learned behavior. What I may find so let me spin it a little bit. You said religion, but even look at a child with special needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're having an environment where a child that you physically you can see the physical disability. And what we found, and we also did studies in relation to it here, even including Dr. Stacy Blackman would have done it, children's attitude towards children with disabilities, and that translate even into religion. And they found that children were very accommodating. In actual fact, what had happened is that the child with a disability would use it to their advantage because they recognize, you know what, I'm going to have a little bit more favor from students. As they go into secondary school, I think because of that relationship or that attitude that was built around them while they were quite little, when they go into secondary school, they're going with a certain level of self-confidence, and therefore they find another students that would bring them through it, that will help them. Adults are the one that you would find then that will look at the child in a different way, and based on how the adult approaches it, children may react to it. But as a rule, children are more accommodating in relation to inclusion and diversity than the adults themselves.
Yes, as you said rightfully, it is a learned behavior, and I think we have to begin to think of ways that perhaps we can use our children to educate our adults. You know, it may be a novel way of doing a campaign where, because our children are so much more open and they are more embracing of differences, I think they can go a long way into perhaps maybe even teaching their parents a little bit more about tolerance. We're going to move on to another form of violence in the films. Shown, we looked at sexual violence as well. And I think we're going to pivot to the opinions of the young people before we launch into this discussion.
You sure about they use a little
That's on me though. That's on my
phone. Nah, watch it. Someone will be like.
But we
You sure about they use a little
That's on me though. That's on my phone.
Nah, watch it. Someone will be like,
but we don't know that we're walking like that. You would look at me and say, oh, was she walking like that? But
that's because that means the girls that get raped. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Nah,
that's what it is.
I just let you know.
Because she put a little pet instead, so it got she.
But but someone when I was saying, I check it. But as soon as when I pass on red, when I get the attention, what is wrong?
No.
I guess it's the type of
the
person.
type of woman it is.
Type of person, maybe.
Right.
Not like man. But if you have like any woman that got respect for herself, ain't gonna like carry herself a certain way so that she could get attention just like that.
Even them they just get problems too. I don't.
But we hear about the women being violated than men being violated.
Man, because if a man can say, big man, I don't walk on the road and this woman keep telling me, slapping me on my boss. See, you can hear, boy, shut him up, boy. You can hear?
Just
because the numbers are different doesn't mean you support one over the other.
I'm not saying that men do not get violated, but as women, we feel like it happens more to us than you guys.
Because it's publicized.
Exactly.
So,
but the thing about it is it's a personal experience for us too. So even if the public put it out there like that, as a woman that I can't step out the house without a man saying something, it's like that's my experience, and that's every day, 24 hours, every second. every 5 minutes.
It's annoying.
It's annoying every time. You could be dressed like a nun. The man can visualize you and take off everything.
Why can I compliment you? Why can I not compliment you? Why can I not compliment you?
Compliment is
there's a difference between harassment and compliment.
But here it is.
In conclusion, we would just say, men, if you do feel uncomfortable, say something.
Speak up.
Don't
I'm
be
going to say
afraid.
this. In conclusion, sexual violence is an unwanted treatment. It mostly women is be attacked, but there's none over the other. Both women and men just be attacked, and it should be. I believe that it should be treated equally.
Agreed. Agreed.
Now, this is an extremely interesting discussion, particularly because in our society, men are often seen as the holders of sexual power. And in many respects, they don't necessarily articulate feeling violated, because if a woman comes on to them or touches them inappropriately, I'm not saying this is so for every man, a man may feel sexually empowered in a way perhaps that a woman may not feel, and that may be because of cultural things or cultural differences, social differences, etc. How, in your opinion, how does this difference really play out in terms of men feeling violated by women and women feeling violated by men? And how can we address this? Because it is really one issue that presents itself differently because we're different genders. How do we handle something like this?
I think one of the things you first have to look at is the power relationships in a society. Any group that has that power will exercise it. And that's what happens. Men will not feel as threatened by women as women will feel by men, because men in all societies have more power. They have more privilege in lots of different areas. And I know lots of times you don't want to accept that, but if I told you that whites have more privilege or power than men, you say, yes, sure, because it's a different group. But when we look at our own group, sometimes we forget to say, well, yes, men have more power. It is slowly fading, yes, it is slowly fading, but it is still there. And you have to address that. If you don't start to address it, and things like human rights, what are my human rights? What are your human rights? Am I invading your human rights? Am I allowing you to get your full human rights? Whether you're LGBT, whether you're disabled, whatever it is. And so we have to start addressing those things, and we have to really start tackling it. I have a young niece, and my niece is afraid to go to work. She's afraid to go into town. She is beautiful. She definitely is beautiful. She can't move from here to there without men telling her all the things they would like to do to her, as well as how she looks, to the extent that she doesn't go into town. And you should not have, whether male or female, that should not happen to you. You should be able to go about your business and do what you want to do without people invading your spaces, telling you all sorts of lewd things. That shouldn't happen, whether you're young or old, it doesn't matter. And I find that, I think it's a cultural thing. You find it in some communities, some countries, where you think it is okay to tell that young person how you think about them, what you think about their clothes, or to even come up and touch them. And a lot of women have had people touch them. There are some men that have also had women touch them, especially at work, and that's wrong as well. You should not be touching anyone unless they tell you that you can touch them.
I have heard men complain that they are unsure as to how to pursue the normal dance between a man and a woman in terms of a man being interested in a woman because of maybe the Me Too movement or because of today's emphasis on sexual harassment. I'm just saying, men are claiming that they're unsure now of how to read the signals that perhaps in the past they read so easily because it was more accepted for a man to go and things like that. how do we answer such men? How do we bring balance to the discussion? Because I do believe there is a natural tango between a man and a woman. You know, that instinct that leads a man to want to mate with a woman, if you want to use that type of terminology. A man to want to establish a relationship or build a relationship with a woman. So how do we bring balance to that discussion in terms of how should a man go after showing interest versus harassing?
It's called simply, respectfully.
Yes.
And it goes back to the cultural aspect, yes, and what we term as the manly aspect. Mm-hmm. So it is manly to, it's manly, it's a manly right to tell, you know, your parts look very beautiful or your dress look good. And they're doing it to females that they don't even know.
I'm sure we have some females out there who want to add some comments to this discussion, or perhaps even some males. Please take the mic.
Yeah, they're doing it. And for men, we keep quiet.
I think we have someone who's going to the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening.
Hi, good afternoon.
I want to touch on the point that you spoke about most recently just now, about how men are supposed to know if a female is interested or not. And in my very humble, respectful opinion, that problem is not a problem that I as a female will care about. You know, I feel like the discomfort that some women have to go through far exceeds you trying to figure out if I like you or not. And to me, the easiest way to figure out if I like you or not is to ask me if I like you or not. And if it is a case where you realize that your energy is not being reciprocated, then guess what? Move on to the female that actually likes you and leave me alone. It really is as simple as that. So when I heard that, I was immature, like, wow, that's a man issue right there, boy. You know, what I over here have to worry about being harassed, have to think about what to wear when I'm going to town, or when I'm going to this place, or when I'm going to that place, because the reactions of the different men are going to be different, and the attention I get is going to be different. Females have far bigger issues to worry about than how a man is going to approach them. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. The second thing I want to say is thank you for highlighting this issue, because when I saw it as a form of violence, I was honestly surprised, but surprised in the best way possible, because within our culture, it's very taboo to talk about sexual harassment. We always hear, oh, well, you was wearing this, you were asking for it, or it's a compliment, or you should feel good that these men want to talk to you. No, I shouldn't. If I don't feel good, and I'm within my right not to feel good about it, and that's okay. So I am hoping that there are some young girls that see that message and that understand the severity in the actions, and that they recognize that they don't have to deal with it, and that they recognize that they should be treated with respect. And just like what the girl in the film did to her friends, I think we need to hold our friends more accountable, because we see a lot, you know, there's no denying that we have at least once seen our friends, you know, say something a little out of bounds or do something a little out of bounds. So next time you see your friend approaching a female in a way that is not respectful, I think it's our responsibility to call them out. So that is all I have to say.
Thank you so much. I think we have one more comment from a male. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I want to first say congratulations to all those who have been putting this program together. And as I was listening to everything that was going on, it brought me back to some research I did years ago. And I like to agree with the statistics that the lady on the far eastern side, western side, whatever side that is. But years ago, I did some research, and it pertained to men not reporting when they were either physically abused or sexually abused. In the 18th century in France, it was said that a man who reported that he was abused by a woman was made to dress up in an outlandish outfit, sit on a horse backward, and be paraded through the town. So people would know immediately that man was abused by a woman. And it would cause people to laugh at this man and to make all sorts of jokes at this man. So historically now, men have refused to report acts of abuse, whether it's physical or sexual. and therefore continue to suffer in silence. And therefore, the question I would want to pose to the committee is, regards to the statistics that we have guiding us today, are we looking below the statistics to see what are the cultural inferences that we are dealing with and what are the things that are impacting on men not coming forward, not speaking, and not addressing the issues that are affecting them? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. I would entertain one more comment on this particular issue, if there's anyone with an additional comment. Yes, sure.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the panelists. Good evening to the panel.
Good evening.
Ms. Ron Robinson from Barbados today. I know that there are a lot of people who hold the opinion that women call unwanted attention onto themselves. And we're in the digital age. I know there are a lot of beautiful young women who pose on Instagram, TikTok, etc. Sometimes we show off our bodies. Something that I actually had to stop doing was posting photos of myself in bikinis. I was a track athlete, I had form, etc. But because of the unwanted attention, I actually stopped posting certain photos, videos, etc. of myself. So I want to know what advice you would have to young women regarding posting, etc. And if you agree to some degree, if they call this unwanted attention unto themselves.
Okay, who's going to take that one?
When the unwanted attention is positive, I'm sorry, when the attention is positive, same thing. So you get all the accolades saying, you know, how nice you look and everything. You continue to post more, right? You know, when the issue comes is when you, for some reason, somebody made a negative comment, like what happened in the video where the boy was being told he's ugly, he doesn't look a certain way. So when that happens, then you have a reverse effect. What we do, or what we encourage persons to do, before I say that, let me say something. The whole idea of sexual harassment was raised as with shop stewards at NUPW. The women are the ones to say to me, but Ennis, I like when you tell me I look sweet. So when I bend over the thing, it's for he, you know? I said, yes, but here lies the thing. When the gardener tell you that you look sweet, you get vexed. That's true. They said, yes, because it ain't for he, it's for the other one. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for them,
therein lays the complexity.
Yes, sexual harassment is an unwanted sexual advancement towards a person. Young girls, what we do in school is to help make them aware. Imagine working in a special needs environment where students are just the only disability they have is a learning disability. So physically they have blossomed just like any other female. Then the minibus driver tell them how darling you look real sweet. All of a sudden they're inclined then to go to that person that's telling them, stroking their egos to tell them how they look. The reason that happened is because their self-esteem is so low. They're looking for the attention. When it becomes unwanted, at the end of the day, that's when you hear the cry out. But for us, we have to teach our young girls, we have to teach our young males, because it's also happening with males, that your body is your temple, and you control that, nobody else. But that is a process in getting them to even look at themselves. I could ask any member in here, take a mirror, look at yourself and tell yourself, I love you. And I can assure you that half the persons in here have never done it. And that is what, when you have to get them to the point that they accept who they are. And that's when it begins to have that psychological dynamic occurring where I value me more than I think you value me.
Thank you. Any other comments in this area?
I just want to ask, I'm not going to go in relation to social media, which is being used as
We want you to use the mic. Use the mic, please, for recording purposes, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm just saying in relation to social media and what the young lady said, it is something that has become very prevalent in our society, where the girls are going to show off their bodies, as she is saying, and post a lot of things. So what is that doing? What is that doing for our society with the young people? Is it a plus for them? Should they continue with it so they could get advancements? Or is it something that they should forbid themselves to do? Because we are seeing, if it is happening so prevalent in our society, it is causing persons who are not thinking the way they're thinking, because they might just post it, but the man or the woman that is seeing it want to have it. So is it the best thing to do, to post on social media? That's the question.
This is their era. This is your era. This is the era of technology where, for me, I am now using, and filters, please don't forget the filters, believe me. You know how I look now and I put on a filter at the end of the day is amazing. And therefore, but you know, all the likes on it, when you see those likes coming at you, it strokes your ego. That's what they want. Are you saying to them, you're not stroking their ego? You're not telling your child, you're beautiful. You are not saying to them, you know, value who you are. You're not having that discussion from very little. When a mother has a baby, watch mummies now. They're on their phone, the baby's in one hand, and the phone on their phone here. They have no conversation. There's no, that dialogue is not going on where we nurture that empowerment within your child. So yeah, they're going to go to social media to get it.
Hi. Hi, over here. Hi, hi, hi.
We're going to be moving on to, is this a question or comment?
A comment.
You need to be very brief because we want to move on to the next one.
Okay. Based
so you have a
on
minute.
what the other fellow said, based on the social media, yeah, if we post some, as she was saying, where there's a difference, where some people don't have self-love for themselves, and there's those people that have self-love, and they like their picture and they post it, but it's not necessarily for who's engaging and watching it. It's because they're proud of their picture and they love themselves. So I just wanted to follow up on that. It may not be for the society, but it is because they are happy with how they look. Whether they're going to the beach, that person is in love with their self now at this time, and you don't know what happened in their life, and this could be a big moment for them. It's not for you. That's just my comment.
Thank you so much. We're not going to delve any deeper into that, but let me say that this is certainly food for thought, and I'm sure that we will facilitate deeper discussion on this issue, particularly with respect to us being in the digital age and all the implications for how we see ourselves and how we put ourselves out there and the implications, etc. All right, we're going to move on to psychological violence, and we're going to be reviewing the opinions of our youth.
Psychological violence is anything that affects each other emotionally, basically. Certain things that people ignore that affect a child and they don't even know, is like mother and father being separated, that is affect a child too. Because I grew up like that, you know, going from household to household. That is also impact a child psychologically. Other things that impact a child psychologically, bullying. This is whom I think about. I believe that parents and all elderly people, I believe that 18 and above, you should be able to talk to a child.
Yeah, but as a mother and a single mother coming up, I found that I was more caught up providing for my son, and he was going through problems as well, and I didn't realize until I found a book where he wrote a lot of things in it. So this is something that a lot of people are experiencing, and sometimes we find out a bit too late.
Ask questions, talk to somebody, don't keep things bottled up inside, because that is no more harm than good. You know, there's a poison. So talk it out, discuss it.
The whole question of psychological violence, and it can be something that is turned inward on the self. It can be something that is experienced as a result of bullying, but it can also happen as a result of unresolved issues that produce torment in the minds of individuals. Dr. Chase, we're going to ask you to lead this discussion. How prevalent is this in our society among our youth?
Psychological violence, I think, is a collateral damage to many things that happen in society. And our children, unfortunately, hold the brunt of it. It comes from violence within the home, violence within the community, bullying at school, even bullying against their own sexuality, or freedom to express that. The young ladies not liking or being offended and afraid, literally afraid of males, adult males, making any comment about what they have on, about them. It is very prevalent. And it usually, this type of violence usually comes in the pit inward. I heard the actor say, speak up about it. But for that to happen with someone who has been experiencing that kind of psychological damage, they have to feel safe. There have to be a safe space for them to speak up about it. They're not just going to speak up about it. When you're attacked emotionally and psychologically, persons tend to go into a shell, almost like a protective mechanism. So it takes you to actually get them into a safe space to actually open up even a little bit of what is happening. But it leads to thoughts, because that inward, keeping everything inside like a pressure cooker, it will come out. And that leads sometimes to self-harm. We have a lot of adolescents and some children cutting themselves, burning themselves.
I was just going to speak about that and the rising of that in our society, because I recognize that several years ago. How prevalent is something like this self-harm?
Self-harm is very prevalent. They use it as a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. So I can't address and correct the pain I feel inside, my emotional pain. I can't get it expressed either. So what I can deal with is physical pain. So I deal with my emotions, my psychological stressors, by inflicting physical pain, something that I think I can deal with and will last for a period of time. And, you know, that is even a risk factor for something greater in terms of suicide.
Okay. Yes, I was just going to pivot to that in terms of suicide ideation. Do we have any questions from the audience in this area? Suicide ideation, self-harm, emotional trauma, and the types of behaviors it produces among young people? No questions?
We found that we are getting a lot more questions on suicide.
I think someone is there. I'm seeing someone by the mic. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I want to talk now because she was going to say something.
Go ahead.
And I, as a student that finished school 2 years ago, I feel like enough wasn't done with myself and controlling my anger, sadness, emotions, and then to inflict it on myself. I feel like it should start at school with HLFE. I feel like that should be doing more in a class for me as a person. And with fights, you gotta teach the youth how to control their anger and control themselves and control their emotions. Things like that gonna help we. It gonna honestly help we. And get out there that mental health in Barbados is free. If you go down to the psychiatric hospital, that is free. Get evaluation, see how you is as a person, that is free. not enough people and youth know that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, young lady. Before you move, I know you're there to ask the questions, but you said something so interesting. You said you wish more could be done.
Yes.
And you're still a young person. What would you have loved to have seen done that wasn't done?
Someone there, because when I was going to school and battling with CXCs, athletes, all those different things, I did not feel like I could have trusted my guidance counselor. Because in the kitchen, the mini staff room, I could hear she gossiping the children business. And I could not feel, I couldn't trust my guidance counselor. I am so fortunate and lucky to have parents that understand that mental health is a very important thing and that I can go to them, but I could not go to my guidance counselor. I had a teacher that I could have trusted, and I know my business was safe with her. And I wish children got more teachers like that would sit down and listen to them and understand them and say, hey, your points, your views, your dreams are important and stuff like that. I just think we need more support from people that we can trust. Not every teacher you could trust, and not every teacher you can't trust. So that's just want more support.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. We are going to be moving on to what I think is our final video discussion, where we'll be looking at physical violence.
I personally think that violence should stop in general.
Yeah.
You understand?
Definitely.
And as somebody who grew up around seeing violence from a very little girl, I think it should stop. And I feel that violence is rooted in us as a people, as a race,
Yes,
right?
it's
It
like
was
a norm.
instilled into us to be violent. And I think that has caused a mental strain on us as a people. And I think it starts with us mentally helping our young boys, helping our young girls get through those type of experiences that they have seen. Because I think we as a people think we don't believe in mental health.
Yeah.
But it starts right there,
Yeah,
right? That's
definitely.
where we should start
And
first.
to add to the point, like you say, it's embedded into our culture, and it's like a norm.
Right.
That we should accept it. But no, that's not the right answer, because people's lives are affected.
Yes.
And they either go to prison or some lives are lost. And we only get one chance to live.
One chance.
So we gotta use, we gotta take it to the best of our ability.
Yes,
Exactly. I think like we should start. I feel like it starts with you.
Right.
Definitely.
And if, as you said, you grew up seeing it,
Definitely.
but through good parenting, through good friends, it
Yeah,
pulled you away from
help,
that.
right,
It helped.
right.
So I feel like we should start with you. Try to train them and realize, teach them like that's not right, and
Lend a helping hand, because some of
don't
the youth just want.
don't do what you see, but do you think it's right? Do you know it's right?
Rather stand alone than following the crowd and know what's wrong.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, that's still you that's affected. Personally, you singularly by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, this type of violence is something that is very much in our faces, particularly within the last couple of months and even years. And we're going to ask Inspector Griffith to speak to the rise in physical violence that we're seeing in our society. What is really the genesis of this type of violence that we're seeing and upsurging?
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I'm here sitting, and I'm sad. I'm sad because 45 minutes ago, another young man lost his life. And he's 21 years old, dies at the gunpoint again. And there's a lot that has to happen here. And it is not the police force's only responsibility. It is an all-country responsibility. And I'm asked the question from time to time, what is the police force doing about the violence? Well, the police force did not raise your child. It starts in the home. We observe every single day. Children across the country seem to be on autopilot. There's no parental control. And what we have done in the force is that we have juvenile liaison, we have the Prince Trust program, we have several, the parenting program. We are trying to do our best socially to explain to the adult population that the children need their support and need it badly. We have challenged the schools in providing for a certain avenue so that we can speak to the kids. But yet, you will find a lady walk through the door and go to juvenile with a 7-year-old child, a 7-year-old child, and say, I bring him because I can't control him. How could you not be able to control your 7-year-old child? But we didn't say go, get up and go and leave. We sit with them and we work with them. And if anybody from here is from probation, and we work with us and we work with probation and several other programs that we have to try to bring some, to save a child from a criminal justice system. Because we are a harsh society. Once you are in the criminal justice system, you don't easily get out of it and you're not forgiven for it. And when you have not been forgiven, the offset of that is that you end up doing more and more and more crime. Because you can't get a job, you can't do this, you can't do that. And we in the police force, we are sad because we are trying at our end, but we need a whole country approach. We need the whole organization. We need the private sector. We need everybody on board in order to salvage and return Barbados to a level that we understand we can do. We can do it. But everybody is saying, oh, it is the church problem, it is the police problem, it is this body problem. It cannot be no one entity problem. All of us have to join together. And I am here because I want to ask each and every one of you to take on some sort of responsibility regardless of how slight it is. To manage the children that you are responsible for in the world. And I'm very passionate about it. I raised 3 sons. Unfortunately, I have never had to go on the block for one. Because I was very positive in the way I approached. And they understood me. Children going to school at primary schools love to see a dad come and pick them up. It's a proud thing. And a lot of dads do it now. But you know, so what happens to the children? A lot of children have the fallout of bad relationships. And that fallout causes that child to see behaviors that in some of them they inculcate, and the criminal justice system ends up at their doorstep. So I want to say here that I want each and every one, and to take the message to those who are here, to join with the country, not the Royal Barbados Police Force, the country. Join with the country in trying to make a turnaround and remove this type of violence, and all violence for that matter, from this society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inspector Griffith. We will entertain questions and comments at this time.
Good evening. Yes, I appreciated what the officer said just now. And I really believe with the whole issue of crime and violence, based on what you said about the 7-year-old boy, a parent bringing the 7-year-old boy to the juvenile liaison scheme, that is rather concerning. So I believe that intervention with our young people really needs to start at the primary level. Because if we're supposed to save our young people, if we're going to address the whole issue of crime and violence, it would be ideal for intervention to really start at the primary level. And that would really make a significant impact on what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment as well. Now, when that mother brought the 7-year-old child, because we get as young as 4 coming to the psychiatric hospital. It is not necessarily about the child, but I want you to view it. Let us not cast blame. Let us not view and take a side. Let us view it a 360. That parent is telling you, I, at this point, do not have the skill set to parent this child. And it is not a judgment. And it is good if that person can admit that. Because in a changing society, what worked and the parenting skills that worked in the 70s, when I was a child, is not going to work now. We need to start, you talk about, it starts with us. That's a broad statement. It has to start in the home, in the community, and then the school. It is not primarily the teachers and the school's responsibility to raise our children. It is the family unit. Family unit, and you have to equip the adults in the family unit to raise our children. And our children, we learn by what we see. And if we see our adults, our role models within the home from as early an age that you can recall, dealing with situations in a violent manner, in an abusive manner, that is what you will see replicated. Before you heard, oh, well, you have to be careful what you say around children. No, you pass anywhere, people using abusive language, children there, the child is mirroring it, the child is going to school and doing it. We have a society where we do not allow or teach our youth how to express their emotions, so it is coming out in anger. To heal and to solve this problem, yes, it is not a one fix, but the core of it starts with the family unit and the community.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? Okay. We have looked this evening at a number of types of violence that exist in our society. And even within these types of violence that have been depicted, there are several degrees or nuances that change and are configured differently based on social strata, based on gender, based on educational background, occupation, exposure, experience. There are so many variables that impact how we experience violence and how violence is even perceived. So the discussion on violence certainly will not end at this juncture, but certainly this is the beginning of a conversation that we want to keep having with our youth and with our wider society. We have looked at gender and symbolic violence. We've looked at physical, sexual, psychological, and domestic violence. I want to thank our panelists this evening, Ms. Marlene Hewitt, a domestic violence advocate who has been working in this area for a very long time. And we've also had Joyanne Innes, an educator, women's rights, and a social justice advocate. We've had Dr. Chase, who is a psychiatrist at our psychiatric hospital, and we've had Inspector Griffith from the Barbados Police Service. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles and your panelists. We really appreciate the guidance as you took us through the conversation that came from screen to us here. And as indicated, this must continue. This is just a beginning, and I would say another injection into the conversations, because this is not, we do not see this as we're the ones doing this one. This is another type of intervention as we work through what is happening, what we must do, and how we should go about doing it. And therefore, I want to say to you this evening that this End the Violence, the series, suite of 5 themed short films that explored violence in our society, it's just the beginning and a part of the overall anti-violence campaign of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. We would have led with other initiatives, most recently, or Gimme Peace on the Mic, which with anti-violence and utilizing chanting and various spoken word, getting to young people and letting them to speak. This evening, it was quite heartening to hear young persons speak and share their views. It was great to have those coming from organizations to share their views and experiences. And it certainly will be even better as you take this conversation with you to your various areas and expand on it. Now, of course, we have used theater arts through the films because it is a non-invasive way of getting us to watch it, to listen, and to move from it. And we want you to continue that in your various ways, at your various tables, across the couches, under the tree, wherever you go. Please have the conversations, but the conversations must not just be conversations. There must be movement to personal actions. Because when each of us take ownership, then action, positive behavioral action, and that change that we all want in our society will occur. So what's next? Well, this series, and I'm very happy I'm seeing our partner CBC, Ms. Joe Ford, our television manager, is here with us. And CBC is a partner within our anti-violence campaign at the ministry. Of course, all of you here are part of that partnership, because that's how we see it. There's no one man, one show, and Inspector Griffith said it very eloquently. This is a total, everyone. It doesn't belong to one person or the next. Because today, that young man who lost his life, I mean, as we were standing there, I got the message as well. And who lost his life belongs to someone. He's someone's friend. He's someone's brother. He's someone's cousin. He's someone to someone. And there are persons here who may have had that personal experience with knowing someone, and it hurts. And we want that type of hurting to stop. And therefore, this evening, we want to let you know that we want you to join hands with us as we move forward with our next steps. Of course, we're going to continue this conversation with more in-depth, and therefore our panelists, as each of them, when I spoke to them, I would have said, this will continue, and we will be calling on you as we move to the CBC stations and platforms to expand on the discussion and investigate, to identify opportunities for solutions, because that's where we have to go. We will also be going into the communities and working in partnership with local organizations. We will also, of course, be engaging our schools and our guidance counselors and our health and family life education teachers and school-based organizations, the key clubs, the guides, the scouts, all of them, wherever they are. And of course, through media and social media, it was mentioned here, and that's where we have to leverage as well. We must go wherever people are. And that's what we must keep it coming and keep it working. All efforts will be made to build partnerships with our governmental and non-governmental organizations. And therefore, we ask you, please, don't necessarily wait for us to call you, call us. Because this is a we thing. It is not a you thing or a my thing, it's a we thing. And this evening, we want to really appreciate those who spent the time and effort, pulled on their creative skills. Dr. Charles, you were here again in a different capacity, but she would have worked on scripting and working the long hours. Randy Eastman, who has been constant, if you saw me on the phone, that's what was going on, the constant production end of it. And I would like at this time to ask those who are present, because everyone couldn't be, some are online. I would like to ask all those who were part of the production and cast to stand, please, if you were here this evening. I know some persons were here, and I would like you to stand, please. Thank you so very much. There are some persons who are not here, like Carl Alf Padmore, and you know, so many people came together to make this happen. Also this evening, you would have seen Chanting, Aline Clark. Is Chanting here? Chanting, please stand. She stood just now with the cast, right? Sorry. You know, seeing you on screen in that red dress and now in uniform. A schoolgirl doing great work. And she won the anti-violence campaign jingle, and it was remade, and this is what you're seeing here, again, moving out. Young people have a voice. Yes. And we heard some of them speaking this afternoon to the conversations. Thank you so very much for everyone. For those of you who came out to be physically here with us, those who are online who are joining us, and I'm even going to dare say, because this is on our Division of Youth Affairs YouTube page, those who will view this later, thank you. But we're thanking you for the action we know you are going to take, because this anti-violence campaign is a national campaign. It is our individual campaign. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And we would like to wish you all the best, because we are going to win this together. Thank you very much. Can I just ask for you to just remain where you are while we ask the ministers, permanent secretary, those just to leave at this point. And I want to invite you all, please, as you leave, we have some light refreshment. We know that you came here early, and we really want to thank you for that. And so we have some light refreshment to just give you a little watering. And please continue the conversations. It doesn't have to stop on the inside. You can take it on the outside. Thank you very much.